Only one life, only one birth, only one people, only one earth. Open our arms as our hearts expand, growing together as we understand. Now is the time, here is the place, we belong to each other, one human race. So open our eyes, reach out our hands to all living beings across every land. One planet, all people standing as one. So thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to share this morning. It was great. You know, it's been a while since I've done anything live. When Linda sent me the theme and the topic for this year and for this month, at first I thought, well, this is great. It's perfect. You know, it's everyday wonder is the theme for the year, and relationships was the theme for the month. And then she sent me My Sunday, which was me, myself, and I. All three of us had to be here today. And I thought, you know, at first I thought, well, I have lots of relationships. You know, I've had lots of relationships. I've learned a lot. I have a lot to share. And then when I found that it was about me, after I was done hyperventilating, I figured I can work this out. But it was a little unsettling because I knew I was going to have to, get deep into some stuff. So it was very interesting as I started working on my talk, what came up for me. So just so you know what I was sent, the summary of today's topic is, this week, our focus is the relationship we have with ourselves. How we treat ourselves offers us great insight into how we treat others, how we treat and how we want them to treat us. We are invited to deepen our practice of self-care as a spiritual practice and a way of life. So that was pretty revealing, self-identification, how we align and unify the various aspects of ourselves, and how that manifests in the world, how it outpictures in our relationships with other people. So the line, if we do not value ourselves, that unworthiness shows itself in our job, our marriage, in our art. In one way or another, it's going to show up. Now that stopped me in my happy tracks. Audre Lorde said, there is no thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live single issue lives. And that really brought it up for me. We can't heal just one aspect of ourselves or our lives or our relationships because it's all interconnected. It's not just like a one-issue thing. So when one thing comes up, other things come up. So we may think, well, I just want to work on changing that, and I want to ditch the rest of the stuff, but it just doesn't work that way. Anybody tried that besides me? Failing on that. So apparently living everyday wonder means learning to care for, nurture, and envelope our whole selves, especially the hurt, guilt-ridden, shame-filled parts. Anybody besides me have a few of those? Yeah. So I'm trusting I'm not the only one. So Good grief, we're already into this stuff. So how willing are we really to take a good look at ourselves and how we're showing up in the world, and to really take the courage to peel back those layers? I always picture my life and my growth as like an onion. And you know how many layers an onion has? Like, there's a lot. And so every time I get through a layer or two and I think, okay, I got this, then there's another one that comes up that I have to peel through. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that experiences that. It's like, things come up, and sometimes we can just take a peek at whatever it is that comes up. And by simply acknowledging it and saying, okay, that's an old wound, that's an unhealed place, that's an anger, an upset, a loss, and just looking at it, sometimes we don't really have to go any deeper than that. Sometimes just saying, okay, I see you, I feel you, I hear you, and I don't think I invited you here, but even if I did, I'm going to say thank you for what you came to teach me. Thank you for the experience, this person, this mess, for whatever it came to teach me. Lesson learned, I got it, ta-ta, moving on. What's next? Sometimes that works, sometimes it's not so easy. Life is complicated like the onion. So sometimes guidance outside of ourselves, prayer, counseling, it can lead us out of inquiry into clarity. However, there have certainly been times when simply saying, okay, there it is. For me, again, usually, again, there it is, again. I have now mastered that, this ugly little lesson. I don't have to do it again. I'm ready to evolve and grow through it. That can be enough. So my story, I have a story. Everybody has a story. So I married two, not just one, but two abusive, competitive men with drinking problems. I even managed kind of a somewhat healthy relationship in between these two marriages. However, I apparently never peeled that onion quite far enough to get down to the part of me that would invite the same relationship in again. And a very good friend of mine pointed out to me, dang, girl, you married the same dysfunction in a different package. And she was, of course, completely correct. It took me a while, but I slowly learned to accept that I was worthy of a healthy relationship. I've been with my husband, Alan, for 29 years, but it took me 14 years of confined misery in those two marriages to finally dig deep enough into those parts, into that onion, to heal the broken places inside of myself. And I'm not saying there aren't still broken places, but at least that part of the onion has been in the composter, and I'm done with that. So I remember the same friend when some other friends, they saw Alan and I, and nothing's perfect, but we have a pretty healthy relationship, and we grow through this stuff that gets mucky and difficult. These last 3 years have not been fun for a lot of us, and the last 6 or so, 8, 10, pick your number. We all have stuff. So I had friends when I first met Alan that would come up and go, oh gosh, you're just so lucky. And the same friend said, she's not lucky, she earned him. And I did. I did a lot of work to get there. I dug deep. I cleared away that self-loathing and that the low self-esteem and the things that would make me accept less than a healthy relationship. And I owned my story and the lesson that I learned in it. Brené Brown tells us, I now see how owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. And I know I'm not the only person in this room that has had painful growth experiences, but been willing to grow through them. And I also know that most of us have probably seen people that keep repeating those painful, dysfunctional cycles because they're either afraid or they don't have the support to really dig through that, to heal those places. So my mantra the past few decades has been, okay, I get there's a curriculum here, and I'm willing to learn those lessons, but please send me kind teachers, please. And so far, seems to be listening most of the time. So how is it that recognizing that there's only one of us here, and I get that on a pretty deep level, how do I bumble along thinking so poorly of myself and beating myself and making what I call self-defecating, you heard it right, self-defecating remarks? It's a Karieism. There may be more, they just spring up. It means verbally pooping upon thyself. So one of my mantras is, thou shalt not verbally poop upon thyself. No more self-defecating remarks. So Ernest Holmes teaches us, he says, I believe in direct communication between the spirit and the individual. The universal spirit personifying itself through each of us and all. That is a beautiful, logical, and unavoidable conclusion. And I agree. When we get to a point where we recognize that our actions, not just toward other people, but toward ourselves, it's basically the same. It's an energy exchange. If I'm beating myself up and you're around me, what are you going to be picking up? It's not going to be good energy. I can promise you that. So healthy self-talk is a big component of my relationship with myself. And if we recognize this extension, this ripple effect of everything that we do, we can give ourselves permission more easily to go easier on ourselves and stop that mean stuff. I'm sure I'm not the only one that does cruel self-talk. So now when someone I know, my drummer bass player is like a brother to me. We've been working together for, almost 3 decades. And when people see us around each other, they just assume we really are brother and sister because I call him bro, he calls me sis. We look a little bit alike. I swear, it's like people and their dogs. You know how they start to look like their dogs? Well, my brother and I, over the last 30 years, are looking more and more, and we take pictures. People take pictures of us, and we're making the exact same face. But we don't see each other. We see the picture, and we go, God, that's weird. But it happens. So he does a lot of very interesting things, we'll say. And so he used to always say, oh, God, I'm such an idiot. And I would go, no, you're a genius. You're a genius, bro. And we would laugh, but it would be, I'm acknowledging, in a humorous way, that maybe he wasn't living up to the highest potential that he's capable of, but the potential of a genius is right there in him all the time. I encourage us all to look at things in this way. When something comes up, we can go, wasn't that an amazing opportunity for growth? Or, oh, goody, I'm not going to make that mistake again. It's just a kinder, gentler way of being ourselves. I think Shirley MacLaine said something to the effect of this quote, blessed are those who can laugh at themselves, for they will never cease to be amused. It's true. She's dead on. So the Bible says, this is in Corinthians, I'm paraphrasing, but self-care as a deep and abiding spiritual practice demonstrates to ourselves and to the world what we understand and recognize our value and worth actually is. We have often heard the body referred to as the temple of God. Here's a quote from the Bible. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? Don't you know this? The Bible asks us. And quite frankly, a lot of times I forget. However, again, recognizing that we are just extensions of a universal energy, a soul, a source, a vibration, it only makes sense to take good care of ourselves. Because if we're dissing ourselves, if we're not treating our soul, our body, our packaging as a sacred space, who do we expect to do that? It's kind of, the onus is on us to do this. And for me, probably my biggest aha moment to start taking my own self-care, and I don't mean just physical, I mean my mental, my emotional, my psychological self-care seriously, was when I had this moment where I recognized truly there's only one of us here. We may have different packaging and we may be walking around in what my dear friend Carol calls her earth suit, but really, there's only one of us here. And so talk about like moments of everyday wonder. When you touch into that, when I see someone in pain and the tears they just come up, or when I witness something emotional and my heart fills with such joy, I recognize that I'm feeling what that other entity is feeling, and that there's an exchange there. And the more I tune into that, the more I show up as the person I want to be in this world, somebody who does not say self-defecating things to herself, and certainly doesn't say unkind things to other people. You know, when we really lock onto it, and we recognize that everything we do has a ripple effect, it becomes extremely important to recognize the importance of maintaining peace, our balance between how frenetic and busy our lives and our minds can be, and finding the quiet time and the quiet space to get centered and to really touch in with Source. So one of the things I've learned to do is cut my news, cut how much news. You know, I can read the headlines and then do what I can do. Whatever that is, I focus on the good. I focus on what I, as one individual person in my particular packaging, what can I do? You know, so for me, one of the things is to continue to write and create and perform and share music that uplifts us, that reminds us of our oneness. I can share my story wherever it's welcome, whenever it's possible, and hope that it brings a sense of connection and love, and that even sometimes if you're feeling, wow, you know, this is so not normal that I feel this way, that I'm up here confessing that I feel that way, and it is normal. And that's okay. Focusing on the good. You know, I carpool, I recycle, I write postcards, I lobby for the things that I believe in. And it takes away some of that helplessness that I'm sure all of us feel sometimes when things seem to be going sideways, especially the things that we're committed to and feel strongly about. And those don't have to be the same thing as everybody else. It's just acknowledging what's important to us and finding ways to show up in positive and loving and empowering ways. So, and the other thing is to carve out time to just be in the silence and focus on a clear vision of what I know can be. I know that we can co-create together a world that works for everyone. I can see that. My heart can feel that. And no matter how discouraged or how angry or frustrated or disillusioned I get, if I can bring my thinking back around to that knowing that that is possible, and then release that vision, knowing that I've done what I'm able to do and that that's enough. I'm enough. There is enough. We are enough. All we can do is the best that we can do in any given situation, moment to moment, second to second. And that is enough. Accepting that and relaxing into that knowing is a powerful way to ground and hold our space as we co-create this better world. Do I have this mastered? Heck no. But I do all of the above, and it does help. And this includes self-care. Does anybody else here have trouble carving out space to just be quiet and ground? And yeah, I'm glad I'm not alone. So I want to encourage you today to give yourself permission to say, no, I can't do that right now. I love you, maybe tomorrow. And to build that space around yourself, even if you don't have a place to run away to where it makes it a little easier to take that space. So, it's baby steps, little baby steps. And the biggest part of that, and this took me decades, is to give yourself permission to do what you need for your own self-care. I mean, there's 3 of us here, me, myself, and I. And, that's like a majority, right? So just put it to a vote and see how we do. So, and also for me, it's like, like I said, it was easier said than done. It took me a long time to give myself permission to really put what I needed first. But it took my own health really starting to deteriorate because I realized I was running on empty constantly, and I was still giving as much as I could, but I was giving from an empty well, and that's not a good place. That I could actually take care of myself and end up more productive and able to show up with more to give by pulling back a little bit. So now's that trade-off moment for all of us to think a little bit about where where can you cut the fat? What can be left out? What things are draining you? I mean, I'm sure all of you have probably taken classes where they encourage you to make, something comes up and you can't make a decision, and so you do your columns of pros and cons. And that can be really helpful when you read it in black and white. So I encourage you to do that. And figure out where you can cut the fat in your personal trajectory. Where can time to nurture your personal path be created? What is it that you really, really want? Are you thriving? Or just kind of surviving, just kind of getting through every day, but not waking up going, wow, I'm excited about what I'm doing today. I was so there, so empty, so drained, that even doing music just didn't feel good to me. And that's been when all hell is breaking loose. Music has always been where I go. That's my safe place. That's my healing place. And boy, was that a big whoa, you better pay attention, because if you don't have that to go to, where are you going to go? That's your God connection. So I encourage you not to get to that point, to pay attention a little bit sooner. So what would a life of creating beauty and feeling worthy look like to you personally? What would it feel like for you? And then baby steps to start visualizing what that will look like. Adjusting, moving those puzzle pieces around until things start to fit together in a way that feels healthy, that feels empowering, that feels right. Don't believe what your eyes are telling you. All they show is a limitation. Look with your understanding. Find out what you already know, and you will see the way to fly. Because we all have this inner knowing. But if you're like most of us, we ignore it. Because it's going to bring up things that are sometimes uncomfortable to look at. It's going to bring up the dark places that aren't healed. that need to be healed so that we can find those bright puzzle pieces and put them together in a healthy and loving and self-nurturing way. I encourage you to look at what moves you to create a stronger connection with your own understanding of yourself, those three me, myself, and I people that hang out, and how to have a relationship with all three of them, because they're going to pull you in different directions. I guarantee it. Mine did. Science of Mind magazine in February of 1995 said, our three greatest needs are to feel that we are needed, wanted, and loved. To feel that we belong to the universe in which we live. Once again, back to our oneness, our interconnected, our interdependence. I encourage all of us, myself included, to take a little time to develop an everyday wonderful relationship with yourself, with ourselves, to acknowledge that we're already enough, that we have enough, that there is enough, and to trust that and pay attention, because when you trust that, when you really embrace that, you're going to see little markers all along the way that will affirm that for you. And it's really important. So listen to that inner guidance. Sit in the silence. Indulge your inner voice. And be open to where it will lead, because it's the main connection to Source that's going to lead you to the answers that we all seek. And it knows so much better than this busy little brain and our egos. So if we can get to that quiet place of love and joy and health and wonder in our lives as well. So when we go into this chant, I want you to just sit in this silence and in these words, and recognize that all that we need is inside of us. That we are whole and perfect and complete. And all the answers to the questions that nag at us are right, they're right here. But we just have to slow down enough to pay attention and listen to those answers. So I invite you to go inside. Thank you. I am so blessed. I am at peace. All that I need lives within me. I am so blessed. I am at peace. I am so blessed.